Can you tease about the next season? I want to know.
Well, season 10. We're going into a decade now. So, we're really going to be picking up where we left off. What happened at the end of season 9 was probably our biggest finale we've ever had. So, there are huge ramifications for that. Not only practically, where they're going to live, what's going to happen, but emotionally, here are two characters who have spent the previous 7-8 years coming together as a couple, and now they've been torn apart. I'm sorry?
Again,
yes. So it's really yet another test of the strength of this relationship, but also it's probably the greatest test they've had for a couple of reasons. One, Booth has never been in a situation like this, even though he's been in war zones, he's been, people have tried to kill him in the course of investigations. He has never been betrayed by an institution that he not only trusted but has risked his life for. So the betrayal that he is contending with now is far greater than anything he's had to deal with as a sniper, as somebody in the military or anyone in the FBI. So he doesn't really know what the next move is. He doesn't know who to trust. He doesn't know what is in store for him when he gets out. And also there is a huge conspiracy, for lack of a better word, that is ongoing that wants him gone and wants this investigation terminated. Brennan has to deal with all of this. She's been working tirelessly for the 4 months that Booth has been in prison, and we will pick the show up at a point where there has finally been a break, where they have, where Brennan and the Squints, with Caroline's help, with Sweets' help, with all of the information that they've uncovered on this chip that that they got at the end of last season, that has led them to a break in the case. To, of course, because it's Bones, a dead body, and a delightfully decomposed person who potentially has the ability to unravel what has been ongoing for decades, even longer than Bones. And so that's where we pick it up. Brennan and the Squints are diving in to this. All of the information has been compiled by Angela that they have they've gotten off this chip, and we will now see the results of it. And how do we get Booth out? How can Booth help? And where is Booth at? How is he going to help? What is he able to help? And how much damage has been done? So there's a lot to put back together again, far more than just a house.
Do you think we're going to see some conflict in the Jeffersonian between the teams? Are people going to take sides?
Well, I think there's no real dispute about who the bad guys are and who the good guys are, although they don't know who the bad guys are. They know there's an entity which they must rid themselves of. I wouldn't say it's a conflict, but we've known Hodgins now, this will be going on 10 years, and for a conspiracy theorist who has been dismissed for the past 9 years to start season 10 with the confirmation that there's a conspiracy, this is Christmas morning for Hodgins. And to resolve this is a mission, not only for Hodgins clearly, but for everybody.
Will his character play a more prominent role next season?
Well, his character will be pretty paramount in these first few episodes. We're going to have to, Bones will always be Bones. We will go back to the show that everybody wants. You know, it's still, we're still going to be solving murders every week, but we have to get past a huge hurdle here. And Hodgins' help is going to be invaluable for that.
Will you still have the insertion of humor and music?
Yes,
With all the
we will not.
seriousness?
We ended the last season a little darker than we usually do, but we've done that before. But I think what happens when you go for 10 years, the show becomes more mature and more real in a sense, so that no one's life is all dark or all funny. So we go through this, seeing essentially we're being taken into a dark place, but there's always humor, no matter how dark it is, and then we'll come out of it. Believe me, what we're planning this year is going to be a lot of humor, a lot of things that the audience expects and wants. You know, they'll be going undercover. You know, they'll be in situations that are truly bizarre. You know, psychics. You know, fake psychics, real psychics. We hope to see Sydney again. Sydney's a little busy, but we're trying to work out those schedules. We want to bring back all those members of the family. You know, Billy Gibbons, Ryan, Cindy. You know, people.
Stephen Fry?
What?
Stephen Fry?
Well, yes, we'd love to, but talk about busy. He's very busy. So, and we're also adding another recurring character this year in the FBI. Someone, the Jeffersonian has been well serviced by our revolving interns, and so we're kind of adding a little bit more to the FBI. Someone for Booth and Sweets and Caroline to deal with there. Someone who is far more confident than anyone we've seen in that situation. And whether the confidence is all well placed or not, we'll find out. But it's someone great to give to Booth. You know, it'll give us a little more humor there.
So it sounds like Booth goes back to work after this whole problem is solved. Is there any question of whether or not this is the right place for him because of what
Yes.
happened?
Yeah. Booth will go back to work. How he goes back to work, when he goes back to work, and under the circumstances under which he goes back to work are all up for grabs when we start. It's going to take a while for that part of the Bones world to become comfortable with itself. But that's not to say that there isn't humor. You know, there's enough absurdity in their circumstance to keep that alive.
As a producer, how hard is it to keep the show fresh after 9 seasons already, going into the 10th season?
Well, if you had asked me that 10 years ago or 9 years ago, I would say it's impossible. There's no way to keep a show going for 10 years. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how it's done. The only thing I can say is that the show still feels fresh. The characters are fresh. We're not bored with it. As long as we're not bored, those characters take us in directions that hopefully will surprise us. And as long as we're surprised, as long as we don't sit there and say the show has to be this, the show we can't veer from this trajectory. We can't ever entertain this kind of situation for them. I think that's when a show dies. But we're kind of following these characters for the past 9 years now, going on 10 years. So as long as we're open to where they lead us, believe me, I thought I'd be making a noose, after 5 years, but I'm still enjoying this world. It's new. It's still, we're far more traditional than many shows now. But within that, the show keeps growing. So whether it ends this season or not, I don't think it will. And I think the network has no intention of it ending at this point. But we're following these characters at this point in their lives, assuming they'll live normal, healthy lives and live till there's, 80 or longer. The show, as long as we keep following them, the show stays alive. And as long as their lives stay interesting. And as long as we keep killing people, I have no intention to stop murdering people, I think the show stays fresh,
Do you feel pressure to top yourself for like the big indie this year?
Well, we put that pressure on ourselves to top ourselves, I won't lie to you, it's very difficult after almost 200 episodes now to find a new way to discover a set of remains, to find a new way to discover a killer, find new worlds in which to investigate these killings. And it's always shocking when those worlds appear. We have an astonishing writer's room headed by John Collier, who has been with the show for 4 years now. And when I'm called to go upstairs, it's always like, what? Really? Oh God, this is great. It's always another world that we never would have thought of. And of course, the mission and the desire is never to repeat ourselves. Now, we're going to have to repeat ourselves to a certain extent, but hopefully it's all cloaked in another way, or we acknowledge it. But it's difficult, but as I say, that it's the characters that keep it fresh. And, we've been really blessed by the interns, the new interns that came this past season. I mean, it was such a gift, Rodolfo, Jessica, I mean, these are just great people for us to have around. And I think we've expanded our focus and have used the lives of those people, the lives of the interns, to freshen the show up as well. So that we don't have to just do the same people and their same concerns over and over again. If we focus on the lives of interns or the lives of supporting characters or other people in our family, that affects Booth and Brennan in very surprising ways. And I think evidence of that is the story that we did last year with Wendell getting cancer. That was a show, personally, that I love that arc, and we will be continuing that this season because it has a profound impact. So that's how we're trying to keep it fresh. That and, I guess periodically drinking too much. And it looks great.
Will we see any other, besides Wendell, how many other returning characters, family members?
Well, we're trying to get everybody back. We try to get, Aristide will be back, Clark will be back, everybody. It is our intention to have everybody back. They're all so wonderful that frequently they're busy, so it's a scheduling issue a lot of times. But it's certainly our intention to keep that world as fresh and alive as we possibly can.
How easy or difficult is it to every year to keep, coming back for David and Emily to sign on for another year? Is it like a easy situation? I mean, is it a decision?
You mean for them to come back and do a show?
Every time
Well, they sign their deals, and the deals are, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure how long that is, but I think their last deal was for 2 additional years. I think the initial contract for the actors goes either 5 or 7 years. And everybody signs those because nothing goes 5 or 7 years. But I think, bottom line, we're blessed because everybody wants to continue doing the show. And they want to continue doing the show, so it's a process of renegotiation for them. And that is always a difficult and challenging process between the actors and the agents and the studios. Unfortunately, I have nothing to do with that. But it always seems to work out. Because it's rare when you get a show that you enjoy doing, for that long a period of time. So while it's a challenge, it's one that always seems to be overcome.
If you had to pick your favorite episode of the past 9 seasons, what would it be?
You know what? I can't do it.
It's like picking your children.
Yeah, it's like when somebody says, what's your favorite movie or your favorite book? I've never been able to answer that question. I have lots of them. I do have, I have a lot of different episodes that strike me as important or in different ways. There's some that are funny, there's some that are sad, there's some that are, I felt were kind of important, for lack of a better word. So, I don't know. I leave that to the fans, to the audience to pick their favorites, and hopefully they're like me, and they can't narrow it down to one. That's a good dream.